call this meeting of the Madison Elementary School District Board to order. What's one? And we will start with the roll call. Oh, Ms. Humphries,
President Holcomb.
Here.
Vice President Gresham.
Here.
Member Thompson.
Here.
Member Kazi.
Here.
Member Spear. Here. All are present.
Thank you. And we do have a call for executive session.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. And please vote. I need to log in.
I have not signed in yet, so I'm an aye.
Oh, we need to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. And we'll vote on that.
If you're not signed on right now, we can do a voice vote and I'll report later.
I vote aye.
Voice vote would be great.
Sorry, we're moving to.
Ms. Spear moved and Ms. Thompson second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right, the agenda has been adopted, and now we will go vote on executive session. Do I have a motion for executive session? Again.
So moved.
Second, Ms. Spear and Ms. Thompson. Please vote. Are we still doing voice vote? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right, and we are in executive session.
Scott, we're going to go into executive session now, so don't hang up. We will get you on our end.
Okay.
Scott, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello, are you there?
We can hear you.
Okay, I couldn't hear you coming anything from your side. Thanks.
We're all muted because the meeting can't start for another 6 minutes.
Okay, I'll just chill out.
I don't know. Like, I think. Well, we've talked about business last time. Just Hello? Hello? Hello?
5 minutes, Scott. Okay, we will reconvene the regular meeting. Ms. Clark, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. First up, our superintendent's report. Dr. Garrity.
Thank you, Vice President Gresham. I'd like to first welcome our guests to the board meeting. Thank you so much for engaging. I want to thank our staff, students, parents, and community members for a great first 10 days of school. Through everyone's hard work, patience, and the Madison team community spirit, we had a great opening for the 23-24 school year. If you have not seen the Madison Park rebuild while driving down 16th Street, please join us for Phase 1 grand opening tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Madison Park will also be pairing it with their curriculum night. It is quite an amazing school facility, so we encourage anyone in the community to come out. In addition, this week on August 23rd, we will be hosting a job fair at the district office from 4 to 6 p.m. I have already recruited one person from that, and I think everyone is required to do the same. Just kidding. So if you can join the job fair, it's going to be at district office. Coming soon to the Madison Center for the Arts is the Hungry Caterpillar, all the way from Rockefeller Center. They're going to be here for several weeks. I encourage everyone to get their ticket so they can relive Brown Bear, Hungry Caterpillar. I used to teach second grade, so Eric Carl, I know all the books. It's going to be a spectacular show. I would like to share our latest student enrollment numbers. Today is an important day as we officially drop students that have not attended school for 10 days. It's called the 10-day drop. However, we will not have those official numbers until tomorrow afternoon. Those are still coming in from the schools. But through Ms. Garvey's office, we have a prediction of the 10-day drop numbers. And it's important to note when I share all this that our enrollment continues to be very stable. And in regards to demographic challenges with lower birth rates lately, with so much school choice, with the Empowerment Scholarship vouchers, that we are continuing to remain stable and have waitlists at many of our schools is a testament to the stellar education provided by our educators. So I just really want to applaud their efforts. So what we're doing here is comparing May 16th, 2023, all the way to the right column, August 21st, 23, no preschool. So compare red to red. So if you look at number one, their numbers are just a little bit lower, and we're seeing in 5th and 6th grade. So we're exploring taking some students off the wait list. At MTA, we are up some students from last May. And in our next Title I school, we have just a smaller drop, and we're noticing less kindergartners at that school. So we're hoping that they're still coming. But if you remember when Rick Brammer shared, there is going to be a dip in the 5-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and until we hopefully hit a little bit of a blip with the COVID, if we get maybe a little bit the birth rate up there. And then we have Sinus at a little lower, but not much. Rose Lane is down in kindergarten in particular, still waiting for those 5-year-olds. And at Park, we are up from 376 to all the way to 405. At Meadows, we have an increase of about 30 students, and at Heights we are also up. But when you look at the total, not including pre-K, it is just about 20 students, and Ms. Garvey just shared that we've just recently enrolled 10 more students at Rose Lane. So it's very typical in some of our schools, particularly our title schools, where we will still continue to get enrollment. So even 20 students down is not truly 20 students down in my book. And it's important to note that the August 21st numbers that we're including, we've taken all the students we anticipate 10-day drops already removed from there. So we feel pretty confident about those numbers. So what we are looking to do in the future is we're trying to determine balancing staffing with school physical capacity, where we think a school number should be in regards to being able to support the programs and education. So that's always a balancing act, and we're going to continue to optimize, try to address the wait list, but make sure our schools don't become overcrowded, that we can still provide the stellar education that Madison families have come to expect, and as we as well. So any questions about enrollment? That's my comments. I will bring more updated numbers after we get 10-day drop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garion. And next up, we'll have our board member reports. Ms. Spear, would you like to go first?
Thank you very much, and welcome to our governing board room. Our guests, we have guests in the audience today. Oftentimes we do not, so it's lovely to see all of you. I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Garrett for her report. The park campus is absolutely beautiful, and I wanted to thank our voters and our residents for showing the trust and the confidence in us to build a building that is safe and stellar. And I believe truly that buildings matter. Our enrollment is up at Madison Park. It's a school that we've seen some fluctuations at, and here we are up with our enrollment. People want to send their students to safe buildings that are conducive to learning and that are not portables in a field, which is what Park was for a long, long time. So we're grateful for our voters and for the efficient team that helped build Park. And I also wanted to say, talk a little bit about the demographic fluctuations that we've seen. A lot of those demographic fluctuations that we see reflected in our numbers with kindergartners is something that districts across the state are seeing, and as well as private schools and charter schools, that there are just not that many kindergartners right now. There aren't, across the nation, not just in Arizona. So that's something else, a point that I wanted to make. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Causey?
Thanks so much, Ms. Bishop. Thank you for those lovely comments. I'm really excited that I'm going to see Park on Thursday. Is the tour like all the whole? Or tomorrow?
It's Wednesday.
I'm so sorry. I've been on a trip and I'm a little discombobulated. So it's Thursday. And does the tour start right away? Wednesday. Oh, good.
Tuesday.
Okay. I'm completely discombobulated. Good gravy. I'm glad I asked. So does the tour start right away at 5?
I apologize. 5 o'clock is the ribbon cutting.
Awesome.
So, and then you'll be able to walk around the building.
Excellent. Well, and
Ribbon cutting is grand opening.
And the public is welcome to attend.
Yes.
Fantastic. I'm sure we will hopefully see members of the public there. It should be really fantastic. It's a building that I feel like lifts up education. There's something about that feeling. There's a media room, which is the library, that is a room in the round that is just absolutely spectacular. And I can imagine a student going in there to look for a book or to work on a paper and just feeling like they're elevated in what they're doing. It's really quite lovely, and I feel like spaces make a difference for humans, right? We feel different about places when we're in a space that feels, I don't know, meaningful. Like we really, like it's, I remember when I was in the nonprofit world, we always talked about wanting to look like the solution. I feel like that's true also in public education. I serve as the board designee for the Madison Education Foundation. I wanted to apprise you of a few things coming up. On October 20th, we are tentatively planning to re-envision the Madison Education Foundation tasting event. Now, we're still in the world of post-COVID and increased costs for restaurateurs and the fact that they just went through an incredibly challenging time. So that has been so our ability to get us in buses and to go restaurant to restaurant is probably not going to happen, but we're trying to get them to come to the Madison Center for the Arts. So if you could just pencil that date into your calendar, and we hopefully will have more information in the next few weeks. But we really feel like this is a great opportunity to kick off the school year, make the community aware of the Madison Education Foundation, and get them into the Center for the Arts as well. So just heads up on that. The date is October 20th. That is a tentative date. And then I wanted to thank everyone that is involved in ensuring that we have kind of a accountability planning check-in for the Madison Education Foundation and the Center for the Arts Strategic Planning Program. I think building in those accountability touch points, we say we're always going to get it done, but sometimes those meetings and pen on a calendar make all the difference in the world. So thank you to everyone that made that possible, and for the facilitator. We're looking forward to hearing what she has to say and having her hold our feet to the fire. Thank you.
Thank you for that information, Mitra. Ms. Thompson, do you have any comments?
Thank you. Just briefly, I want to echo the thanks to our community for supporting the overrides and the bonds to be able to support our staff and our students. I think there's something to be said not only for having a beautiful facility, but the change for those students to go from, frankly, a facility that I toured last year that had some odors that I wouldn't have wanted to spend time in, to a brand new, beautiful facility that they're really going to enjoy learning and really be able to get the most out of their STEM education there. I think it's going to make a huge difference. So thank you to the community for your ongoing support for that. I also want to thank our staff at the schools who have had their curriculum nights already. I've heard feedback from parents that they're really excited about the principals and the teachers and engaging in new ways at our schools. And I think we're off to a really great start. So just want to thank everyone for the hard work that goes into spending an extra long day to help answer questions from parents and students about the year to come. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. I don't really have much to report. I'm excited for tomorrow for the grand opening, and I'll save my comments for that. But I do want to just add on to what they said, is that it really, hopefully it shows that our students are valued, that all our students are valued. So that's all I'll say about that, is that they're valued, and that, having them have a nice, welcoming place to learn is showing them that they are valued. So thank you.
I'm sure, I don't know if Mr. Holcomb would like to comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Holcomb, do you have any comments? Are you there? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to pair everything people have said about parks. That's the school that, particularly my kids were park students, and it's great to see they had a great education there. But that building is going to make all the difference in the world to that community, and I think it's great. I apologize that I won't be able to be at the ribbon cutting, but I look forward to seeing pictures of the kids and staff there cutting that ribbon. It's a great time in the district, and I want to thank everyone who made the great opening of the Madison School District this year possible. Things have gone very well. I continue to say, this is a year I'm really looking forward to. There are so many positive changes, and we're moving in such a positive direction. It's very exciting. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sorry about that. So the only other comment I have is that I'm sure everyone's getting settled into their new routine with the new school year, and sports are starting up. So tryouts are going on, and we had our first cross country practice yesterday. So we're getting in the swing of things. And we'll move on to our consent agenda. Does anybody have any changes to the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I will second. Ms. Thompson moved and Ms. Spears seconded. Please vote.
I vote aye.
Thank you. And that has passed unanimously. Next up is our call to the public. Ms. Humphries, do we have any?
We do not have any calls to public.
Thank you, ma'am. And we have item 7 as our parent survey results. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, Vice President Gresham, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'd like to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Barb Marshall, who will introduce our speaker for parent survey results.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Barb Marshall. I'm the Assistant Superintendent. I'm going to be speaking to you today. I'd like to start off by thanking all of you for
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. As you know, we do an annual parent survey, and I'm pleased to share that our principals have already delved into the results through the summer planning for their school integrated action plans. I know you'll be hearing from the schools in September as they share the focus areas. And one of the data points was the family survey. But taking a look at the results from a district perspective, we have our Director for Research and Evaluation, Jason Heinkowski, who will share that.
Do I need to repeat that for the record? Okay. All right. A brief overview of our parent survey is what I'm going to be presenting tonight. This first slide talks about our engagement during that survey that we conducted last year towards the end of the school year. Overall, we had in 2022-2023, during the end of the year, we had 1,658 interactions with our survey. And that survey was distributed through a tool that utilizes emails, and those emails come from PowerSchool, which families put into PowerSchool, and then those emails or those contacts were selected through having custody or being associated with living in the home with that child. So those people who had supplied their email in that portion of PowerSchool were contacted directly to give their feedback for that survey. Additionally, we did distribute that survey link to different schools that were having parent events to try and encourage that participation as well. You'll see the first row is overall 1,658. Second row is that filter where we talk about our general disengagement from the survey. Sometimes we'll see people engage in the survey where they'll fill out the first few demographic questions, and then maybe one of their kids scores a goal at the soccer field and they forget to come back and fill out the rest of that survey at that point. So we eliminate those from our overall totals. Last year we had 64 Spanish version survey completions, which was nice to go back to that type of participation, and I put that into some of the efforts at our schools that have higher rates of Spanish-speaking families, reaching out and engaging those families to give that feedback, particularly Camel View and Madison Park. We opened that survey on April 27th and closed it on May 21st of last year. So there was an ample window to try and encourage that. We sent out reminders at various different points to try and capture rates. And then as we neared the close of school and the participation in our school improvement sessions where sites would be reviewing and processing the data, we closed down that survey for submission. This graph shows kind of the last 5 years of participation in the survey. We'll go back to 2018-19, which you might want to consider a pre-COVID participation and interaction. We did not administer the survey in 2019-20. In 2020-21, we did a beginning and end of the year survey to gauge our levels of engagement at those points for some crucial feedback from our various different participants, and then we had last year and then this year. Next slide is one of the questions that we like to carry through in most of our parent interactions. It's a general question where we talk about their child feeling safe at school. One point of note is that over the course of the 2018-19 span to the 2022-23 span, that term, although it was very short and intended to be precise, took on various different meanings over that span of time. Traditionally, we think about feeling safe at school, meaning bullying, maybe some social media interaction, fighting, those types of things. But in the middle of that span, it also took on to some other iterations like illness, family safety, maybe politics at times with different comments that came in. So just to note that that statement in itself kind of had a little bit of an evolution. When we look at our most recent survey results, 2022-23, it appears that from the comments gleaned from our parents that I feel safe at school has resumed a more traditional meaning about that physical presence and how things are going. And you'll see that we're showing a bit of an upward trend, which is nice. We do see that our elementary schools are having a slightly faster pace recovery with our pre-COVID comparisons, and our middle schools are progressing and showing progress, but we definitely have elementary schools that are outpacing with higher rates of strongly agree and agree, which typically is more the norm of what happens on a nationwide basis. The next question that we commonly ask is, I would recommend my child's school to another, which is a good indicator of how strongly our families feel that school is providing a valuable resource. We'll notice, although some of our families are concerned or don't have a strong agreement with the feeling of safety at the school, they still felt that they would recommend that school to their child to another. And we do see that this is one of our higher top block ratings, with 50% of the families that responded on this survey saying strongly agree that they would recommend one of our schools to another. Another question that we frequently ask over the period of time to track is, overall, I'm satisfied with my child's academic progress. In our two top box scores of strongly agree and agree, we have 48% of our families responding back that they're overall satisfied with their child's academic progress as they do return those surveys. One thing to note is we do have 8% of our families talking about disagreeing with those child's academic performance, and the span of the comments typically associated with that vary dramatically, as far as it's not one particular incident that seems to be bubbling up as to why that dissatisfaction happens. It's usually a compound of a few different variables, and one response may not be similar to another. So we're more looking to find some trends about what might be causing a lack of agreement to that statement. There's not maybe a clear theme to those people giving us less favorable ratings. Of the other two that we also ask, we give a general feedback of how it would grade the district. We see overall 63% of families would grade the district as an A and 23 as a B. We often like to compare the district rating and the school rating to see if there's any dramatic differences between schools, or if there's a similar pattern or trend that we might be able to address. And we'll notice that and then oftentimes at the schools, when we review that information, we'll give them the ability to compare the district comparison to the school comparison to see if there's any major drop-off between the perceived satisfaction for the district versus the school. And then next, just an overview. I know Ms. Marshall addressed it earlier today, earlier this meeting, that with the family survey, we have a brief review of the survey results by research and evaluation to kind of organize, curate, identify some themes that are happening, process the information for each individual site administration to provide that to them during their school improvement sessions so they can read through the different surveys, have a head start on what some of those themes are and trends are, so that administrators and leadership teams can prepare those conversations for other educators that are engaging in that process, and then go forward and bring back some of the major themes and messages to their sites in July, August, and then September, so that they can look at those trends. The site administrators review that information over the summer, and then those SIOP teams are hopefully coming back to those themes that have been identified and reviewing how their school improvement plan may be impacting parent perception and parent satisfaction with the school systems that they're charged with helping and organizing. And with those survey results, oftentimes, and we'll see when we start presenting our school improvement plans in September, these family survey results may be echoed on some of our monitoring and evaluation levels for the different school improvement primary needs that are addressed, where there might be a monitoring engagement or a learning or a change level of monitoring. So if a school is enacting different types of changes or different communication strategies, they would build that into their school improvement plan and place some of those results into these different monitoring and evaluation categories. So schools will be alluding to that in the future presentations. And then with these next 3 slides, I'll talk about some commonalities that happened with the family surveys. We grouped the sentiments of the different comments into 3 themes: a negative theme, a positive theme, and then a neutral theme. A neutral theme being defined as something that is really not overly positive or overly negative, provides some feedback, but doesn't stray too far out of something that might be just considered advice, perhaps, or guidance or suggestions. Negative themes we provided first. Again, these comments that I'm going to be are not comprehensive of every single comment placed. Some of the comments were thank you, and that doesn't quite fall into a big theme that we would put into a category. Other comments were brief, or just like, we did 4 years, and there's not much of a sentiment that can be read from that. Because there was no sarcasm symbol or a lack of sarcasm symbol after that comment. And so with that, what we took is some of the highest commonality themes and expressed them here. There are some other themes that might have occurred that didn't make it onto this list, but these are kind of the top commonalities that we noticed. And then even within these commonalities between the negative theme, the positive theme, and the neutral theme, you'll see the same topic mentioned multiple times. For instance, communication. That is a positive that exists in the neutral, and that also exists in the negative comment theme, where folks are satisfied with the communication, satisfied with the improvement of communication, dissatisfied with the inconsistency of communication, dissatisfied with the numerous modalities of communication that have been created by our advanced world. Various different reasons about some people are very communicative and some people are not. So there's a wide span of communication, and that's going to be a theme that works all throughout our different sentiments. Homework load was another topic that came up, where there was a perception that came up about, and this ran a little bit more heavily at the elementary level than it did at the middle school level, about amounts of homework assigned to some of the very younger students, and there's some concerns expressed on that. There was also some concerns expressed related to perhaps teacher quality or the support of the teachers in those realms, as far as being able to be responsive and consistent to child's needs. There are also some concerns related to safety and security that did pop up. And I would like to note and remember that there were a few situations that happened in April right before this survey went out, so I was anticipating maybe slightly higher rates of this, but there were some acknowledgments of some safety and security concerns. And then lastly, another common theme that came up with a bit of a negative theme was curriculum or challenge, or a term we use in education a lot is rigor of what students are interacting with, and that theme bent a little bit towards some of the advanced classes that were students and families were engaging in. Now, slightly rosier side, the positive theme comments. We had a lot of general comments about gratitude, appreciation, call-outs to certain individual staff, different leadership members, different teachers, positive environments, just talking about the dedication of staff and appreciation of their engagement with their family in the educational setting. Some other positive themes are related to positive school environment, about atmosphere, cleanliness. Things which I've neglected to mention prior is we try to align these different themes with different parts of our strategic plan. Hopefully that calls out, and then also align to the different school improvement needs that our schools are going to be addressing in a few weeks. To carry on, here's where we see the other side of effective communication, a recognition of improved communication channels. So we see the other side of that, although it wasn't as prevalent as maybe with the negative theme comments. It is a point of content for parents and families to note. Another positive theme that switched the other side is that quality education, acknowledgement of progress, and what's happening in the classroom. So we do see families taking the time to respond and provide information about quality education that they believe is happening in Madison. And then one of the last top common themes that came about was community support related to the culture that's existing at a school, and that's related to primary need 3 of the schools that are really focusing on that culture that's happening at the school system. To finish off with our themes, we have a neutral theme basket that is a little bit more maybe on a rational thought where it's providing advice, giving some of the top comments came back about administrative feedback about decision-making progress. Oftentimes that was tweaked with maybe communication or organization of how material or how information came about. But then we also had a neutral theme related to communication and technology. That one kind of came, that one had a typical theme of talking about the various different platforms that are available for people to communicate on and where's the best spot to find information or request that information or understand it. Another common theme that came up that was neutral is just about transitions from different grade levels. For instance, kindergarten to first grade or fourth grade to fifth grade, where there was some of those growing situations where maybe people are moving locations or kind of changing how they interact with life and the maturity level. So that was a comment that came about a bit. And then we also had some neutral themes about different quality, about enjoying the interaction with one person, but maybe not enjoying the interaction with another person. And so how that was noted as being interesting, that things are different. We also had some other miscellaneous comments that were just suggestions. For instance, more extracurricular activities would be nice. So that's more of a neutral theme comment, and not providing great praise or criticism, but just providing a suggestion. With that, what we're going to do going forward is obviously embed this feedback into our school improvement plans, share this information with various departments that can benefit from that information. We're already in the process of doing that. We're sharing this information with community education, communications, and marketing. But we're also going to be following up during semester 1 with an MTSS survey. That MTSS is the multi-tiered system of support, which is related to our strategic plan, where we're going to be asking for feedback from parents, from staff during semester 1 to get their understanding of where we're at with the multi-tiered system of support, give that feedback so that we can make some changes over the next several months, hopefully have a positive impact on our end of the year parent survey. And then also we're in the process of developing a simple student survey related to MTSS about how they feel their needs are being met in the classroom, so that we can make sure, one, that it abides by all regulations that are in place for surveying students, but then also pivoting towards the conversations we're going to have with CogD and Advanced Ed during our accreditation process. They have a relatively high value on survey results from parents, staff, and students, and so we want to make sure we have a good understanding of that information from our students in those various different groups, so that we can move forward with impacting education this year and then next year when we're going through the accreditation process. And then also we'll be working on a different exit and retention survey, partnering with human resources so that we can understand why some of our different staff are making various different choices about retaining or moving on during that year. And that's also in partnership with Hanover Research, that will be having them drive a lot of the conversations with these surveys so that they have a nice through line of our information and can process that information quickly and give it back to us in a nice neat package. And with that, are there any questions?
Thank you, sir. I think I will start with Mr. Holcomb so I don't leave him out this time. So, Mr. Holcomb, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Frankowski. That was always informative. And I looking over the PowerPoint beforehand, and I think it emphasized it in your presentation. I picked out four C's that really came to the fore for me. Was the comments on culture, communications, community, and consistency. And I think we're doing a lot of work on culture, and I think that also reflects how important the cultural foundation that we're building and have had for a long time, and building even more is important. The community inference is important. But the two that had some both positive and negative were consistency and communication. And I think the communication is one that we really should take a look at, and in relation to be also consistent. I think we have very good communication, but it's working on the consistency and it's how we can incorporate that in, to what we're doing moving forward, and the consistency in cross education across the teachers. I think it's important in relation to our PLC, continuing educational classes for the teachers, of the PLCs, and I think the communication, same thing, is we incorporate that, see how we can make that more consistent and across the whole district. I think it's a very positive survey, and I really liked in part of your presentation where you not only just told us these are the results of the survey, but this is how we're going to use this information. And these are the things we're looking at doing based on the information we gathered. I very much appreciated that. And that's, if you'd like to comment, that there's not really a question there, but I would appreciate your comments.
Thank you, President Holcomb. I appreciate the conciseness of the feedback related to the 4 Cs. I might have to steal that. One thing I do know is we always have to time out the presentation of the parent surveys during our school improvement processes, because once you give that information out, it's really hard to get folks' attention back, because they dive into it so deeply and they reread it and they look at that information, and it's one of the driving conversations. It's almost as important as, it's probably equal in importance to the state assessment results. So I do know that schools value receiving that information and processing it, and I do know that they're going to use it to inform their school improvement process, because it's a great gauge of understanding communication. And thinking about your consistency, one of my favorite quotes related to communication is, the greatest error in communication is believing the illusion that it has occurred.
Thank you. Ms. Thompson, do you have anything?
Thank you, and it's great to see this feedback. I think it's very consistent with what I hear from the community. One thing I wanted to ask was if we have any exit surveys for families who are leaving Madison. Some are going to be leaving because they're moving across town or out of the country or out of the state. But in this school choice environment, I'm wondering if we do any surveys during the year specifically aimed at parents or families who we know might be making a different choice mid-year, maybe outside of this cycle, and whether we gather any feedback from them.
Board Member Thompson, we can have Dr. Lomeli speak to the exit surveys and how we're working on that.
Thank you, Dr. Guerin. We currently do exit surveys for staff. I don't do the exit surveys for families, but we do it for staff. In the past, we have issued the exit surveys over the summer, and in fact, we just talked about it today in compiling the results of those exit surveys for our cabinet.
I think it might be interesting if we have the capacity to do it. I mean, we're going to get requests from families to have their information for their student transferred to another school, but think about how we could reach out to those parents to ask them, figure out the questions we want to ask as to why wasn't this a good fit, and is there something that is there a reason that you're leaving? That could give us some important information, especially as we try to think about how we retain not only staff, and I appreciate that, but also how we can retain students in this school choice environment.
Board Member Thompson, I can see that Executive Director Guin is really anxious to talk about this topic. So,
good evening, Ms. Thompson, members of the board. We do have an exit survey. However, as of now, it has not been filled out with the regularity that we would like to get consistent data. And so certainly having that being administered more regularly to families who are leaving so that we can understand those things is definitely a goal.
And Ms. Gillen and I have had some preliminary conversations this year to revitalize that process, again, with our partnership with Hanover to collect that information and find out what may be the best way to ask and solicit those questions and feedback from people. So I think we're in the process of maybe systemizing, or to use Member Holman's comment, of consistency on how that process goes out. Because I know some of our schools were doing some informal feedback, keeping that locally, but maybe we can partner with those at different sites and between departments to collect that information in a more systemized way.
I really appreciate that. Also, to piggyback on communication, I know that the schools have been sending us out, but I'm going to put this out in the ether here. There are still challenges with the Google and everything else blocking emails. I last night found an email from the school administration asking if my kids wanted to be ambassadors on the first day of school, but that was 3 weeks prior because it was in my spam folder. So even though I have said trust emails from Madison, things are still getting caught in there. So I just want to, I want to say it's on us as parents and families too to make sure that we're going in and checking on those things, because we miss things too. So I think that I think that constant reminder from the administrations to check your spam filters, because even if you think it's, you know, you've done it once, it might be happening again. But I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of the district about thinking about consistency, thinking about how the district might be able to support the sites in providing consistent communications between schools, because when you've got kids at various sites, communication works different in different places. So I appreciate that work that you all are doing.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. I also had that comment about the student exit survey, so thank you for your comments, Ms. Kazi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to reiterate as well. People are always ready to say things that when they're ready to leave that they maybe were never willing to share. And I think all feedback is valuable, as well, as long as you're willing to kind of embrace it. Perhaps when they have to fill out the forms for records transfer, you know, part of that process also incorporates some questions. So it's not another additional thing to fill out, but it's rather something you have to fill out as part of the process to move to the next school. Just a few items that I wanted to mention. First of all, of course, thank you for the presentation. I think our parent survey tells such valuable information, not just at the district level, but also obviously at the more micro school level. So am I to understand that we will get a little bit more school level data then at the school improvement plan meetings? Is that the understanding?
I think they'll intending to present the major themes and takeaways for those individual schools. With us at the district level, you know, we might see a theme. For instance, our fourth grade scores are usually some of our fourth grade and our kindergarten scores are usually the most positive scores. And so schools might use that to inform their decision making to see if they would follow that trend or did not follow that trend. Seventh grade scores, for some reason, seem to be some of our least positive scores. So is there something that's happening in that particular school that they feel is a need to address that, whether it's consistency within those grade levels, consistency within various different cultural aspects that might be happening. So I think they're going to note what the survey results were as a theme, and then their plan to address that. Some of them may start to embed survey results into their monitoring and evaluation plan.
Excellent. I was thrilled to see that the survey opened in April. I think we should continue that trend, maybe push it even a week earlier. May is a crazy time for parents, for administrators, for teachers, for students. And so I just think we're going to have a lot more success with responses if we open earlier in April. May is just, your inbox is flooded with everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we'll possibly see an increase in response. And then just two more items I wanted to just ask on the academic progress question. Was curious how the data skewed elementary versus middle school, as far as how parents responded to that. I'd love to, I mean, I have a presumption. I'd like to know if it's true or not.
With the overall, I'm satisfied with my child's academic progress. We had more favorable scores at the elementary level than at the middle school level. We did have a lot more variation in score at the middle school level too. So I think there were still plenty of people engaging in our middle school situation that had very positive things to say, but the variation between parent scores was a little bit more drastic than the variation at the elementary level. Elementary scores were typically modestly more consistent than they were at the middle school levels. And not to couch this or say anything that is typical with general trends because of across the nation, because of just the number of people that you interact with at a middle school level versus that elementary level. A lot of those elementary folks develop a great relationship with one teacher and have some peripheral teachers at times. When they transition to the middle school level, they are interacting with many more teachers, and they could have a few bad interactions with one person that does have a drastic overarching impact on that. And we did see that with a lot of the parent comments that followed up on it, where they would say, I think I wrote down in my notes, 3 of the teachers were great and one I just had a couple of bad encounters with. And those types of comments seem to follow with the middle school experience a little bit more. And I know there's some trends related to that happen in many other situations as well.
Excellent. And then I'd love to understand a little bit more about our efforts to understand more of student voice as we approach our accreditation renewal. Love that we're looking at surveying them, but obviously there are students that excel in writing and reading and maybe filling out surveys, and those that don't. And so I'm curious if there are other ways that we are thinking about getting that student voice. Is it a round table? Is there other ways that we can gather that information so that it's more representative of what our students are thinking?
Board Member Causey, one of my favorite days I've had in my first year of Madison was the winter PSYOP, which included visits to schools where we spent half days, and we did a focus group with students with parent permission. And some really aha moments, including one student, second grader, sharing that it was really hard for him to get up in the morning and he'd rather be in bed and all of those things. But the moment he walked in the door, everyone said hello and called him by name, and he felt so happy to be here, and that's why he loved his school. And it just melted my heart. And then there were some other things that we heard that we could absolutely improve on. Including a hole in the soccer net, which was like the big talk of the town at Camelview. So that is one. They're very real. They're very honest at the middle school level and at the elementary. And we actually got some actionable items on that. So we can always expand on that. But I just had to say that was one of my favorite Madison traditions I got to experience last year.
And I believe the other topic, the ambassadors program, is something that I've heard a lot of the at least the elementary folks that I've interacted with talking about that concept. I think it's been shared across the schools, and they're noticing that it has a lot of positive opportunities for students to engage in that. So I think with that student voice, those opportunities are becoming more and more available and promoted. And then I'm going to step aside for a second and talk about, as a parent, at number one, the student government program that's there. That is probably the most impactful interaction that my kids have had in that school. They found so much reward in making decisions that are happening in the school, and that came out of those Wednesday meetings. So excited about what's happening. It was really inspiring to see that. So I think those connections are really being noticed, and people are looking for more ways to do that at various different programs and levels.
And I'm sorry, I'm so excited about this topic. I really don't want to put Principal Clark on the spot, but she started a student advisory last year, so I wondered if she could comment on how that went.
Thank you, Dr. Guerin. Not on the spot at all. We did start a student advisory group. We noticed some things going on campus and really wanted to honor their voice and have them be a part of more of a solutions-oriented type of task. So we brought students in, definitely made sure we got a variety of voices. not just those who are continually tapped upon, let's say through National Junior Honor Society, but those who sometimes toe the line of good decisions and bad decisions. And it was really rewarding, but it was definitely in its infancy last year. We're really fortunate we have a new Dean of Students, and he's going to be taking that on along with our new counselor. And we're going to open it up to more students and start to really work on that. So I'm excited to see where it goes this year too, because I really love the idea of getting more input from students and honoring their voice. Student agency is important.
Thank you. That's great. And I like that you're not just doing the students that always want to volunteer for things. It takes all the students. So, Ms. Smith?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Kleinowski, for the survey. This is one of those things that I look forward to every time it comes out. And as a former parent, I really do appreciate that that the team has broken it out now that you can respond for multiple children, because as a parent of 3, they're all very different, and their experiences were unique to them. And so it's really it's a positive move forward for us to be able to, as parents, to be able to respond on behalf of each individual child and their experiences and our experiences advocating for them. I'm not going to ask the same questions. So my colleagues asked a lot of the same questions that I've had. Student voice and surveying our students and asking for their opinions and their thoughts on things. It has a long history in Madison. I mean, I know that our nutritional director has introduced new foods in the cafeteria, and then they had iPads, and students were able to say, I liked it, I didn't like it, and vote. And that student engagement is so important as we are building our future voters, our future citizens, and moving them into high school and giving them, like Ms. Clark said, that agency. And I did also want to just share our middle schools are they're complicated crowd, middle school students, and so I just want to make sure that the public doesn't leave with the impression that our middle schools are not doing their job or happy places. I mean, there are some amazing things that happen in middle schools. I really enjoy volunteering at Madison Meadows, for example, when I work with our students who are doing their community projects at the end of the year. I've forgotten the name. I'm really feeling bad. I forgot the official name of the project, but community project. Oh, I thought I had a more fancy name than that. So I just wanted to kind of convey that I see this data, and as the parent of, 3 former middle schoolers, I see the filter through which some of this is run. And I am also so incredibly happy that we're able to get this feedback from our parents, and ultimately that we're going to be getting it back from our staff, because it's just an opportunity for us to improve and to listen to our stakeholders. So thank you again for this lovely survey.
Thank you. Going back to the student survey, I would love to meet with students. I don't know if they want to meet with me, but I would love to, can you do lunch with a board member or something? I think that would be awesome. So if they're willing, yes. Actually, Mr. Panchowski, I have a question. Do you have available what the percentage of families who responded broken down by middle school and the elementaries? Just the percentage of overall that actually responded.
We have information that was supplied to us during the family survey. I don't have the ability to tie it back and say what percentage of this particular school supplied. So that initial survey that's supplied, and any follow-up surveys that are supplied, we take that information that's provided with them to say this is how many responses we got from school A, school B, school C, school C, D, and so on.
Okay, yeah, it'd be interesting to see just if more middle school families respond or more elementary. Just be curious. A couple of things that stood out to me was one, of course, the changes from the COVID time surveys, and then it's always very interesting to look at. And then also, as far as the safety question, I know we have done really everything we can to make our schools as safe as possible. And I know there's always, always things in the news happening that, causes our students and families to not feel safe. So I hope that other people that have the capacity, our state and federal lawmakers can take that more seriously, because that is always on all students and all parents. It's always on. That's all I'll say about that. Thank you, sir. All right, we'll go on to item number 8, our first read board policies. Dr. Yang.
President Holcomb, Vice President Gresham, board members, cabinet, and guests, we'd like to take 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3 and combine them. I'm going to turn it over to Barb Marshall to share this item.
Thank you, Vice President Gresham, members of the board and cabinet. The reason we are requesting these be combined is because the same verbiage is being added to all three. And this is in compliance with the changes that we've seen for parental involvement related to curriculum development and curriculum adoption. So policy IGA for curriculum development, IGD for curriculum adoption, and then IJJ, which would also include supplemental materials that would be selected and adopted as well. And the change is just having those committee meetings be posted so that the public has the opportunity to observe. There are community members or parents who may be selected for the committee and they would participate, but this would allow those committee meetings to be open for that observation by others as well. You'll see that there was a strike through in board. They just felt that that was redundant or confusing because for board authorized versus authorized, as the board, you direct the superintendent for the work that's done in the district, and they didn't want any confusion that if it wasn't officially granted by the board to have a particular committee, but something that was delegated to the superintendent, that there wasn't confusion that that did not fall under that open meeting law requirement. This has been a practice for Madison since we found out about it last spring. Our purchasing supervisor was aware of the change and had been already working with our curriculum director. So that the policy would just align to practice, which aligns to state law.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? President Holcomb, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you. And again, this is first read, so we are not taking any action this evening. All right, and we'll go on to item 9.
President Holcomb, Vice President Gresham, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, we would like to discuss and consider hiring a dependent of a governing board to work in our after-school program. Because this is an exception to the policy, we are required to take action on this item.
Any questions? Comments?
Well, I think that I am thrilled that your son is willing to serve as one of our MAC leaders, and I'd like to, unless there are any questions, move that we consent to hire Cole Gresham as a Madison Adventure Club MAC club leader.
I will second that motion.
I'll third it. Mr. Holcomb, do you have any comments?
My one thought is, obviously, Vice President Gresham, since it's your dependent, you're not going to participate in the discussion or the voting on this, correct?
Absolutely, I will not be voting on this item. I will just say that my son is a senior in high school, so he has half days now, so it works with his schedule to work at Max.
I'm sorry, if I may, I think this is the demonstration book. There's a reason for this rule, and this is also, I think, the perfect demonstration of why they have the rule and they have the ability and the appropriate circumstances for the board to change, to override that policy. And I think this is a great opportunity and a very appropriate one for the board to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to add that we are in desperate need of additional MAC leaders, constantly hiring them. And so, Cole has any friends, we're hoping you will encourage them to attend. But I just wanted to make sure that the public was aware that this is a position that we see a lot of churn in, but it is critical for our families so that they have care for their students before and after school because of job commitments and other commitments.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
I vote aye.
Oh, and it's up. All right, and that passes. And we'll go on to discussion of future meetings. Dr. Guerin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, cabinet, and guests. For our future meetings, we have our study session coming up on September 5th, and we're going to try it in the morning at this time, giving more time for Q&A because the board has been so engaged with the school leaders. So we will start with elementary schools, followed by the board meeting at 6 o'clock. We have some typical consent items, including approval of the qualified evaluators, which is an annual event, and then we will have the second reading on the board policies. We are looking to bring the lease agreement back for Madison Highland Prep. Ms. Garvey and her team are working on that. And then we're scrolling down to September 19th. We are going to have the SIAP presentations in the afternoon on the 19th, followed by the board meeting. It will be our first board meeting that has a school showcase, and we're going to kick it off with Madison Park and You Make a Difference Shining Star for Park and Camel View. And we will have our typical consent agenda items. And we will, by then, I hope, have the ASBA Law Conference and Delegate Assembly update and future other items to be added later. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns about the future meetings? Mr. Holcomb?
No, I have nothing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'm excited to see the showcase and awards come back. It doesn't feel like a meeting without this. All right. Anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Ms. Spear and Ms. Thompson, and go ahead and vote.
I vote bye.
Thank you, President Holcomb. And we are adjourned. Thanks all.
Thank you all. Talk to you later. I'm signing off.